go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's 5:33. Welcome, everyone. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I need a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as posted.
I'll second.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, we're going into the board norms and protocols. It is something that we've never, or at least since I've been on the board, we haven't had, which is just sort of the norms, expectations, I guess, and then the protocols of how we're gonna do it. When policy committee was when we were going over the code of ethics, it appeared that there were a lot of norms and protocols in the code of ethics that weren't necessarily ethical, they were procedural. So, I know we've been asked, meaning the board, to like get them established and figured out. As the chairperson, the only authority I have is to run the meeting, which is totally fine by me. But if there's other things you want me to just go ahead with, I don't know what they are. I don't know, any chair would know. Prior to the old chair did everything for the board and never told the board. Made lots of decisions and my computer just does its own thing. In conjunction with the superintendent, the board, or the superintendent and the chairperson did a bunch of work, but the board was not kept informed of it, and so nobody really knew what was going on, why, etc. So we've wanted to establish just sort of this is how it happens, so that if anybody else comes on the board, you can just say, this is how it happens, and it helps transition everything a lot smoother. My system's doing its own thing, so I can't get into it right now. But, so today, I did do a norms and protocol kind of little thing in our drive, and I found some samples of what other people have done, so that we could kind of look at that and say, is that really the format we want? Do we want to do something like our code of ethics, where it's just sort of a bullet point of, these are our norms, these are our protocols of how we get there? I don't know, but it is, I guess, good etiquette to have these, so that everybody knows that everybody knows. I don't know, so.
Well, part of what we were instructed came from ISBA, in that we have a lot of policies that say this, and this will happen. For instance, how do you get something on an agenda? Oh, well, the agenda's done by the superintendent and the chair of the board, and then, other people can say, hey, I want something on the agenda or whatever. There's no procedure as to how does that happen. Do you call, do you email, do you how do you get two people to say, hey, let's do this, kind of. It was those types of things that they were saying we were lacking. Like, we had great policy, but there was no instruction of how it's implemented, right? It was a protocol to make the thing happen.
I only have the lights on the microphone.
This is not connected.
Okay. Whole thing. Yeah, and right now this is doing a flash utility and a read BIOS image for memory, and so my system's doing its own thing.
Mine erased all my shortcuts, so I don't know what happened. I'm blind, I'm driving blind.
It just did it on its own. I poked no button. I had everything up to do the meeting, and this is what it's doing.
So unless they had a BIOS update, I never asked you to confirm anything?
It will ask me, do I want to update or da-da-da, and I'm always saying no, because it shuts me down.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just decided that my no was not good enough. It's gonna do its own thing.
We're gonna overrule you.
That's right, I was overruled.
Yeah, so that's gonna probably be a while.
Oh, lucky.
Do you want me to open any of these up here or have them up there for you?
Sure, we could just pick one and just kind of look at what other school districts, which the ones I found were all on the East Coast, except I did find Mountain Home Idaho's protocols or procedures, and that was written by a lawyer, so I don't think we want that. But mine all say sample.
Oh, yours
That's
also
Yeah.
sample,
one right
yeah,
there.
okay.
Yeah.
Which one, Mountain Home? Okay, there you go.
Yeah, right there.
I'm sorry, this mouse is just gonna kill me.
Let me see the bottom of your mouse. Can you show me the bottom? Probably need a dark, a black mouse pad or something, so it's not reflecting back
Oh.
to itself. Oh, that might work. Here, you just put it on your machine.
Something darker work, maybe?
Yeah, it might, it's a bit shiny.
Oh, it works. Yeah, that did it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I like the second paragraph.
Yeah. That could be the only norm we need, right?
That would be cool.
I know there's a couple that I can think of off the top of my head is, establishing these committees. We
Mhm.
really don't have anything written as to how they're established, how they answer back to the board, like, we never really hear from them. We get information back from whomever is, speaking with them, but the board really never has any direct contact with any of these people, you know? Or sometimes even a way to get a hold of them, like that information's never given to the board.
Is it customary and typical that at least one board member be a liaison with a committee when it's created?
Should be, yes. Yep, it should be, and that's something we don't have in writing, that's another norms, a standard operating procedure, we don't have anything. And I think that's part of what, the budget committee ran into, they were told is that they, weren't clear on what the instruction was. So if we wanted, you know, to make that a line item, I don't know what we're doing tonight, if we're just gonna go through a list and decide, you know, off the top of our head, what we might think needs to be, clarified,
Right. I just started a little Google Doc thing.
okay?
and I just wrote norms for subcommittee meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I know, in the drive,
And the other thing also, I think we should have in writing is, when we get these emails from persons in the community or whomever, but that goes to all of us, like, you know, are we all answering, or is just the chair answering, or, I think we should establish that too, because sometimes, and I apologize to the gal that sent an email about the Twin Lakes class size, because she didn't even know if we got the email, you know, because nobody answered, but sometimes I hesitate.
Shouldn't they just go to the clerk?
Well, they email us.
Right.
You know, so well, that's what we need to decide, who's gonna answer, or if we're just gonna say, yep, everybody take it upon yourself to send your answer, you know?
well,
I think-
and part of it has been kind of a, for lack of a better way, tit for tat with the public, because, I shouldn't say with the public, but between the public and our attorney, and the fact that there are no norms or procedures, or protocols. When someone does email the board in its entirety, if the board responds, it can be construed as an open meeting violation. That is from our attorney. She said, don't respond.
Yeah.
But then it came back with, well, if one of you responds and it's outside of the group format, then you're not necessarily violating open meeting law. And so sometimes people get answered, sometimes they don't, sometimes they
Right.
get answered late, only because, you know, we're all busy, and if no one's knowing and no one knows if anybody else has done it, then what do? The old chair, she did answer everything, but she never told the board of anything that was answered. So the board never knew what was said. So we don't want that either. But because of our continually saying, please don't email all of us corporately, people have gone to the task of emailing all of us the same information individually.
Individually, yeah.
But then
But then you don't.
we don't know if they've been answered.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I do think it would be beneficial if we had protocols, then we wouldn't be violating open meeting law if someone did email the board corporately, because we would understand the procedures of how it's going to be responded to.
Well, you know, when we had the virtual ISBA conference, and I don't remember what school district the gal was with, but she had been a trustee for a while. It sounded like she might have had some other type of position also with education in the public. But she actually had templates that she used, depending on what the question was or whatever, and she talked to her constituents all the time,
Okay.
right? Which
Well, we can do
I
that.
think we should be able to do
Yeah,
that, you know, no
yeah.
matter what was emailed to her, even if it was, you know, as long as you're not getting into some type of deliberation, right?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, but she was very, and she shared that and nobody corrected her. So I was like, But that's still stuck in my head because, I understand, you know, their frustration and I think it's our frustration too, at least for me. I know I'm hesitant sometimes to answer people. So I think we need to establish that. How are we going to answer,
Okay.
you know, if we get a collective email? I think if we get individual, I think then we're fine to say, hey, thank you for emailing, or appreciate, well, you know, whatever our answer is to the question. I'm just trying to think of things that are in our policies that maybe we're not aware of.
I would think that if it's apparent from the email that we've all received it, that it's a blanket, then it would probably be most appropriate for the chair to respond.
Yeah.
And the rest of us to sit it out. You know, and my only question is, can the chair CC us so we know what the response was, or do we have to wait till a meeting to
We'll see,
hear,
and
or we don't hear at all?
I have done that, and people have said, "Oh, you're violating open meeting law." And it's like, I'm doing it for communication,
Yeah.
not to have a conversation, just to let people know what got said.
Right.
And they're reading it from the email. It's not there's no misinterpretation, and I'm not persuading anybody anything. I'm just saying this is what I said.
Yeah.
So that I don't have a problem with it, and I think that's how it should be. But I also don't like bouncing around the box because I keep, I do it one way and I'm fine, and I do it the same way and I'm told, oh, open meeting law violation. So
Yeah, I
You're
don't.
not doing business though, are you?
nope.
Exactly. That's what the
Yeah.
law says,
And then,
right?
yeah, and I've heard that from the public and also from other, elected officials, that even when they, say the county commissioners, city council people, whomever, when they get a collective email, they're aware if one of the other ones sent a response, as long as there's no deliberation, there's no
Mhm.
back and forth or,
Making a decision.
yeah, at least at least let the people know. I think that should be, we can always run it by somebody, I don't know who, but maybe we can look back at, Mr. Brayton's, slideshow
Okay.
that he gave us. And also we can always reference, the Attorney General and the Assistant Attorney General, that, open meeting
The open meeting law.
Okay. Okay.
video that they did.
Okay.
That was quite good, I really enjoyed
Mhm.
that, yeah.
Now, on individual emails that trustees receive, does the board need to be, when the board would need to be informed would be if whatever the topic that person's bringing up is something that everybody needs to have the same information on.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we state that? Because I don't think everybody needs to be like, ooh, so-and-so talked to me and here's what, I think whatever relationships we establish with our constituents, we do that on a merit of trust
Mm-hmm.
and representation and camaraderie. And I don't want anyone to feel like they can't come talk to their own trustee ever, for fear of the whole board's gonna know. But it's valid that if, trying to think of something. The dress code. If we're gonna have to vote on the dress code policy and I've got 4 constituents that are like, absolutely not, and here's my laundry list of reasons why, I need to share that with all of you so we all have the same information.
If it's something that could influence our decision, in a decision that we have to make as a collective, we should collectively all have that same information. I
Right.
agree, yeah.
Okay.
If it,
Yeah, that's sort of hard because here's the thing, if we know we're gonna vote on it, and then we're sharing information, that's such a broad statement, anything that might be on an agenda, well, that's everything.
but then is that like, if I'm getting that from one of my constituents, mine being whatever,
Sure,
whoever
yeah.
felt necessary to contact me,
Mm-hmm.
and I agree with them, and yet I push it on to all of you, is that me trying to influence all of you to feel the same way? Like, if I agree with this person, that's where I would.
Yeah, I don't even know that we would have
Weird.
to know whether you agree or disagree, other than, unless you decided to tell us, I agree with this. I mean, you could think something's has good points to it, not necessarily agree. In that instance, I think where that comes in, where that would have to be something that was done in a meeting. If you remember, which would be nice to, Mr. Brinkman, when he gave us training, said that we should be doing that anyways, that those questions or comments or whatever that we get in email, we should be repeating them at the meeting, although sometimes it might make it quite more lengthy, so that people know that we actually got the question, we answered the question, and, you know, in case other people in the public are, because then that becomes, I believe, deliberation, right? If we're sharing.
I think if you have a situation, for example, where somebody contacts you about a policy that's coming up on the agenda, I think it's fair game that all of the board receive that information. What we have to be careful about is not beginning a conversation via email
Right.
about that.
Right. So maybe just putting in the email, FYI. And I think that that's what we've all been doing anyway, from
Trying
for
to.
informational purposes, FYI, just so that we all have it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, just,
I'm
it's,
forwarding this
it's
on.
just information.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah.
can do with it what you want.
And if it's a universal email received, the chair might respond, thank you very much, whatever. You know, the board has received the information, period.
Yep, and then letting the public know that those things that we got individually, that we shared, that it was shared
Yeah.
at the board. So that if there's a records request or something, it doesn't turn into, which it always does, hopefully we can mitigate some of that, you know, that it doesn't turn
Yeah.
into an issue.
In reference to your first comment, Michelle, I don't have any real concerns about, for example, the chair and the superintendent dealing with some of the routine stuff that comes along between meetings that needs to be attended to, so long as we receive the information at some point. You know, just so we're informed, that's all.
Right, but I am unfortunately literal. And what the statute does not grant the chair any authority except to lead the meeting and keep people in control. I mean, like, if people are going wild, then I'm supposed to send them out the door. But beyond that, I don't feel I have any decision-making capacity for this board. You all have a voice, because we're a body of 5. And unless there are specific things that the board collectively is like, stop bringing that to us, you can just go ahead and make the decision, I will always bring it back to the board. So I don't really know which will be changing. Agenda planning. I would go to the agenda planning meeting and the laundry list would already be there. All of the items would have already been put on. And it was just sort of like, I was told what was on the agenda. And there wasn't room to be like, no, let's not do that. Whoa, we're way out left field here. I don't perceive that to be continuing. I think there will be more of a collaborative effort to help it get to become more reasonable, because it is our board meeting. It's not the district's board meeting. It's our board meeting to conduct business for the benefit of the district. So there is a very clear understanding now about the intentions of the board meeting. So I do believe they will get back down to the business basics so that we won't be here forever and a day.
it'd be nice to be able to say, okay, if we hit 9 o'clock,
Yeah, we're done.
we just
We're
table
done.
everything that's left on the agenda for next meeting, and we start with those items.
And I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't.
This, yeah.
So
Neither do
there's
I.
a norm, so there's
Okay.
a norm that we need to establish, we need to, so that things,
Well, it's not fair to you, you got a job, Michelle works, you know, whatever she does. She has grandkids.
School.
Thanks, Dave.
No,
Well,
but I'm
she
saying the
does the same,
superintendent and
yeah.
everybody else is here till 12:30 and they have to go to work the next day.
Mhm.
It's not fair. you know?
Okay.
Believe it or not, the board had a resolution at one time, many, many years ago, that no meeting will last beyond 9 o'clock, and they started at 7.
Oh,
I like that one.
I wonder where that resolution went.
I don't know.
Yeah, is it
I mean,
still,
it
if
was
it's never
ever
been,
recalled or
then it would still be.
Where's the
a
resolutions at? Are there any even on the website?
only new ones are on, the website. There is
The old
a
ones.
place now for resolutions. There were a few older ones, I think, as time went on and people were finding stuff, they were trying to put it back.
Now, with respect to that, which I have no problem, we may need to bump to 2 meetings a month until our incoming superintendent gets her feet underneath her and we have a flow. Because we can't just keep pushing it off to where, we're 3 months behind on the agendas because we're only meeting once a month, which I don't think we've met once a month since y'all got on the board, but.
No.
It hasn't been once a month since I got on the board either. I was told once a month, and the second one, well, that was optional, but we just do it
Yeah,
anyways.
no,
We
it's-
always do it anyway.
Yeah.
It wasn't an option. It was a suggested requirement.
Yeah, I'm for that. And I think as time goes on, when things get a little bit more straightened out, I'm hoping. I just feel like there's been a lot of, we had 2 years of COVID and couldn't really do anything but that. But yeah, I'm all for shorter board meetings and maybe more committees and.
I'm wondering, because we had, let me check.
With respect to committees, I do feel it's important that
Mhm.
A committee, when it's formed, receive a specific charge.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that they have a full understanding that they are a recommending body only,
Mm-hmm.
and all decisions are made by the board, and the board has the option to accept their recommendations, all or in part, or not at all.
Right. I agree.
So long as people understand that, then I
Mhm.
think you're pretty good ground.
Yeah, yeah, and we should have a blanket statement for that,
Yeah.
and that's why I was saying the interaction with the board, and you say, well, there should be at least one board member there. But the board wasn't always aware that we had all these other people working on board business. So going forward, I agree, that's a norm we need to establish, and we need to, the understanding also needs to be that the committees that the board creates belong to the board, right? Because the superintendent can have committees also that
Oh, yeah.
don't belong to the board, right? But yeah, I agree. But that would be, we just have to be able to interact with those people. And I think we should, because there should be an open communication, open dialogue between us and the public.
Well, it's pretty hard to liaison between a committee and the board if we don't have a representative at the committee.
Right.
So, yeah.
So that's one thing we need to make sure that that's established, the liaison between the board and the committees, and that those understanding that those committees are recommendation only to the board. And the board may or may not accept all or part or none of the recommendations.
Yeah, what I put down was, I changed from number A to be liaison from the board to the subcommittee, receive a charge by the board.
Okay.
A recommending body to the board, and board is final decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that somewhere, Charge? Here, for Thompson? She's off for just a second.
I don't know, I
Oh.
just did a new Google
Oh, okay.
Doc. Here, let me
I was gonna throw it up there for
share it.
everybody to see.
So lost in the Google world.
I don't know how it works, I just,
It's a
you know.
Google world.
Or wait, no, that's not the right one.
The other thing, I think that we have talked about before too is, of course,
How's it supposed to work for, if somebody wants to get on, not just on the agenda, but speak to the board, because what, do we have a protocol for that, or?
Policy for that, yeah. Yeah, there's a policy and.
Cause I tried to get on the board and it just never happened.
Well, that's changed since when you tried to get on the
Okay.
board, yeah. And the board wasn't aware you were trying to speak to the board. Yeah, but that's all changed. Some people have interpreted it as more restrictive, but it actually gave more access to people without all of these conditions being met. And we even gave the ability for groups to address the board. If you've got, 10 people in the community that all believe this thing, like they can get a spokesperson and come and share with the board, and trying to give as much access to their school district as possible.
Oh yeah, speaking of people speaking to the board, since we're talking about that, make sure that those people need to introduce themselves
Right.
when anybody that steps up to explain something or anything,
Yes.
they need to say who they are and if they have a position within the school or if they're a parent or whatever. I think it's silly for us to not know that.
Right.
I don't
Who
know
are
how many
you?
times. Yeah, I don't know how many times somebody started talking and I'm like, who
Yeah.
are you? Why should I listen to you? You know?
Right.
I listen to everybody, but it's like, what is your expertise? What
What
you know?
perspective?
Where exactly? What
Sometimes
is your
when
perspective?
Trying to guess who they are and what they represent.
You're not hearing what they're saying because you're like, who are you?
You're looking for
Yeah.
clues that they're
Yeah,
saying in their
yeah.
language.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they talked about this. Well, maybe they belong there. Oh no, they just said that. Well, maybe. Right, I agree.
Yeah.
And making
Yeah.
sure that and there again, that's Norm, making sure, and maybe that's something we need to state before meetings, making sure that they come from the audience to the microphone, because when we're recording, people,
Can't
they
see
hear this person talking maybe, or they
Ish.
hear bits and pieces, but they can't see him, they don't know who it is, but yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they need to.
Maybe we could make a little sign to put on the podium that says state your name.
Yeah, I know at city council meetings,
Position.
that's a requirement.
Yes.
You have to state your name and
your
your
address.
address.
Yeah, full doxing.
And, who you represent,
Yeah.
if you're an
Just so
engineer or
that-
something.
Right,
like
Just
that.
kind of a
Right,
reminder on the
absolutely,
podium
yeah.
for people who walk up there. I'll try to do a
Yeah.
better job of asking if people just start speaking.
Oh.
Even with the familiarities of the people that do present to us, they
Mhm.
still should do that.
Yeah. Well, and another thing is, especially, I know there was times where somebody was talked about by first name. I had no idea. When I was first on the board, I had no idea who they were. I'm not gonna just, especially
Right.
when I was new,
Right.
I wasn't just gonna jump in and say, who are you talking about? Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Been in
I-
those shoes.
I
yeah.
don't know.
Right.
So, I don't know how to, do we always try to say, I know that makes our meetings longer if you're having to say first and last and just when you're talking about somebody. I don't know.
I
Yeah,
forgot my thing. I'm so bummed.
Hmm?
I forgot my little.
Oh. That's what I was gonna bring up before was, the other thing that needs to be, clarified, I think, is, attachments or documentation that go with the agenda. It needs to be written out. We've sort of reined it in and had this understanding that we can't be in a meeting and all of a sudden documents pop up.
Correct.
Your meeting has changed.
Yeah.
However.
Where? How?
Yeah.
And then I'm doing this and not listening to what.
Paragraph 2 up there.
Yeah.
What I'm a little
Yeah.
frustrated with, and I don't know how to, address this, so I'm assuming we'll have to address it with the new incoming superintendent. A few times what's happened is we've been given a presentation, they've been altered, and then the presentation that's presented isn't the same presentation we have because new information has been added. That can't happen because we don't have all the facts. And
Right.
we're sitting blind and we're having to try and learn it on the fly or whatever.
Right.
It's not appropriate.
If you're scheduled and you haven't changed it by, I don't know, and it's hard to say by noon on the day of the meeting
Yeah.
because I'm at work at noon on the day of the meeting, so that I can't just hop in there at a moment's notice and we don't always know when something has changed or been added
That's a difficult one.
go back in and see it.
Sometimes even for staff, I was thinking of, Brian's presentation at the budget hearing. He had a couple of slides that were added that afternoon when he was preparing for the board meeting, but it was critical information. It was important information that we received. So if he didn't put them in, then we didn't have all the picture. If he does put them in, is he running afoul of, some other direction?
It should have, in my opinion, not been altered to the presentation that we had received. They should have been on the side so that he could pull it up and then possibly add it. I mean, if they were that critical, I didn't see them as that critical, and it was frustrating when I'm like, we don't have that slide, and it's, oh yeah, well I just updated it. So the presentation of the board looks like we're not informed.
Mm-hmm.
And that drives me crazy because I've worked so hard to make sure we have the information at least 2 days before the board meeting. Because when the agendas are as long as they are, it's a long time to go through
Yeah.
all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And to go back through and find what was changed or not.
Yeah, so the staff knows they have until Tuesday before the board meeting. Or not Tuesday, we're Wednesday, so they have to have it Monday. They have to have it 2 days before the board meeting. So appreciating what he changed, I get it, and it was a budget hearing. However, those slides should have been outside because we still don't have them. We were never given them. And we won't ever get them unless, you hound and hound and hound, and we shouldn't have to do that.
Well,
So
the public doesn't have them.
Yeah, the public doesn't have them. So that's where it gets frustrating because that shouldn't happen. And there was one time when we didn't get the attachments, and then I'm like, well, we're not gonna do it during the board meeting. And everyone was like, what? Like, no, it's not,
Wow.
you didn't meet the deadline.
If
And
we
it's
don't
nothing
have
crucial.
it on Monday at the deadline and you need to add it, maybe they need to email it to us so that we get the email with the attachments and know that there are additional slides added for that.
Right,
night
well, I mean,
or
some
whatever.
communication would have been nice.
Yeah.
But we didn't get any. We got it during the board meeting, and then we look, like, oh, deer in the headlights, because we've never seen it, and we don't know what's being said.
Mhm.
So, but that's not the first time he's done that, and I'm not particularly pinpointing him because other departments have done that as well. But
Well, it
we
was just
can't have that
it was
happen.
just an accepted thing. I don't
Right.
think any one person. It was just the thing, and
Mhm.
everybody did it, and I mean, we would sit in meetings and sometimes not have anything. We'd be watching this presentation, and there'd be nothing. My thing is that the public doesn't have it
Correct.
either, and they have no clue on those. So anyways, we have to figure out how we have to have something in writing and say, this is it, right? This is, and maybe if it is something so critical, it is attached separately and it can still be quickly uploaded separately to the agenda, and then we know we can make maybe an announcement before the meeting. But I don't want that to become the norm either, where
No.
everybody just says, oh, well, here's my.
Right, and in all honesty, there have been a few situations with employees where I've gotten a call, usually the day before, sometimes even the day of our meeting, and it's a very critical matter, and I've given permission to add it, and then it's executive session, so we can. I take the fall for that one because as long as I get the call and I know what's the story behind it, and no one's manipulating the agenda that I've prepared for us, it works.
That's, I certainly don't have any problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, so make a protocol.
Yeah, I think really probably just really enforcing that
Yeah.
all attachments have to be to the clerk, to, you know, and just saying, well, I'm sorry, it can't be added, or, you know, and if it is
Mhm.
critical, it needs to be dealt with, but how do we
Right.
word how we're gonna,
Right.
Well, I can see if there's some legal thing, or, you know, we've had, student things that come in at the very
Mhm.
last minute, or, I mean, those types of things are fairly easy to categorize, you know,
Right.
but,
well, and like the student things, the public isn't getting that anyway,
Right.
so it's not a
Right.
situation where public isn't
Right.
getting information that we have
right,
to make
right.
the decision, so I
Right.
think that that's.
Like we can give an example, did it happen, but, you know, hypothetically, you know, maybe, we're presented with some, you know, the presentation we received was based on ADA, and at 4:30, they get a call and say, nope, they changed their mind, we're doing enrollment now. So like all the data changes to what, I mean, that.
Yeah,
that could happen.
absolutely
Yeah,
could.
and that
Yep.
could be a critical thing, right? That would definitely be acceptable that,
Right.
right,
Yeah.
because now it's not even applicable.
We're
Right.
You
having
know.
to totally change gears and.
Right, I can,
Yeah.
I mean, those types of things, but,
Mhm.
One page pops.
Hmm?
I just went to the district website and it says view page pops with a little bell.
yeah, that's usually the little pop-up messages
Yeah, that's
we get.
Oh.
Yeah. Might be something you clicked that said, don't show me this anymore, or it could be sometimes the,
It's the
The
enrollment
ADA
for next year.
things,
Okay.
Pop it.
yeah. Also under that, well, I think, well, a couple of things, with the subcommittees, the other thing I think we need to clarify is, how long, or if they even close, do we leave, these openings for people to say, hey, I wanna be a part of that? Because I'm thinking like, curriculum takes a lot of effort, right? And if maybe we have a parent or community member that's like, oh, well, I could read a couple library books, or I can go, but I can't do it next month, but I can do it this month, or, you know, and maybe they can't commit to this continual involvement, but they can give a little bit of time here or there, but, I think it was a fairly short option of joining or turning in the name to participate in a committee. Do you think we need to decide how that's gonna work? Are we gonna just leave it open for those committees?
Show up when you
or-
can.
Well, I know
Why
Lynn,
not?
I know Lynn said she was gonna work on something so that there was, part of the problem is, I do think there needs to be, well, actually, that could be, there needs to be better communication with the community.
Yeah, yeah, that was another line item.
Yes. Which, I suppose within our norms and protocols, we could decide if we, would like to do a Facebook page. The reason I bring that up is, I do think it would be beneficial, within this. If we choose to do something like that, we do need to establish some norms and protocols for that as well. Because that will be one minor segment to be able to put the communication out there for those that live on social media sites. Because Lynn's gonna do what she's doing to improve parent communication with the committee's involvements. She showed us kind of a list of like curriculum, just different parent subcommittees for information for the board. But it's not reaching the main population, it's solely reaching the district. So we have to figure out a way to reach outside of our little blocks.
Well, especially with the law change, we have to include everybody. We
Right.
can't just, I mean, the legislature was very specific on the makeup of the curriculum committee. You know, so
Okay.
we don't even get to, you know, a minimum standard. I mean, we don't even get to choose that now. They were very specific on from what demographic the committee is made up of. So we have to be careful with that, so maybe we need to revisit that too. But I agree with you on the communication, because I remember a couple years back when we did that survey with the community, the number one request of communication was snail mail.
Yep.
People wanted something in the mail, which I understand gets spendy.
Well, and we had a little preliminary discussion with Lisa, I think it was during the interview, but at any rate, about doing a district newsletter. You know, we did that for many years in the past. It was pretty successful, but that's something that goes out to everyone in the district.
Right.
As you say, it's a little spendy, but that's a blanket thing.
Yeah, I think
You know,
that'd be
so if they
awesome.
choose to throw it in the trash when they get to the post
Yeah.
office, that's their choice, but everyone has the opportunity. That's the important aspect
right.
of it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we could use that for a lot of communication. I talked to some people today and explained to them, cause they were asking me about overcrowding in the district, and we did talk about communication, and, I don't know if they realized or not that, the state doesn't fund us to build new buildings, you know, like.
A lot of
we have-
people don't, particularly people
Yeah.
coming from out of state, because the state they came from
Right,
does do
right,
that.
mhm,
Iowa
right.
is one of the few.
Right,
and
right, yeah,
almost
so-
the only in the country that has a system we have.
Yeah, yeah, and understanding also that, we aren't like other political subdivisions, and that every year we don't get to impose a 3%
No,
tax increase. It's like, no, you vote on what you vote on, and when it's gone, it's gone. Like, so that would be great, yeah, those
Yeah.
kinds of things in a newsletter.
I think she's planning at least 3 a year, maybe 4.
Mhm.
Right,
At
she
certain,
talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even
Interest.
tidbits on the, if the board chooses to do, a Facebook page, or maybe, yeah, Facebook page.
I have heartburn with that one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just, I mean, because here's the thing, if you.
You said it, you're doing it.
If,
You're gonna learn all the dances, all the popular trends and dances.
I said we could
She
do
brought it
TikToks.
oh Lord.
She brought it up though. She opened that can of worms, so she's gotta do
I
it.
think if the board did that, it would, I mean, I'm all for communication. Here's the thing, is as soon as we lock it down for no comment,
Mhm.
people are not gonna be happy. But if we leave it wide open, then it doesn't become a place of the board trying to get their message out to the community, so.
Well, the way I look at it is most businesses don't have comments on their business pages, and it's a business page. I think it would be beneficial to have it so that the board can say, this is what the board has done, and it has come directly from the mouth of the board, not from the misinterpretation of someone else's assumption that the board did something they didn't even know they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just blanket statements, because if we do that as a united front, it's coming from the board, and people, it's not up for comments, debates, or questions.
Mm-hmm.
People that are wanting to talk to us that can't find our information or whatever on the district website, you can poke that button and go straight to an email to your person.
Mm-hmm.
giving them a map of the district. Did you know this is the zone you're actually in? You know, things like that. That's really informative for people that maybe don't necessarily come into the district office or don't quite know how to navigate our website, because it is a pretty convoluted site. I think it would be, if it's straight to the point, clear and concise, and one person's managing it, it's not, I don't want comments from everybody and their brother. I want it to be a way for the board to say what they need to say about what they're doing. Bob went to the Betty Kiefer end of the year thingy, you know, that's important. What are the trustees doing out within the district, within the community? I think that's important to just say, this is what we've done, this is what we're doing. This is, you know, we're going to the Friday night football game. Yay, go team. I mean,
Direct link to the agenda, direct link to, because people have asked that, where do I go? How do I find it?
Yeah.
Where's it at? Even when they get to the web page, they're like, where? Click
Yeah.
what? You know.
yeah.
I can see the good things of it. I mean, it can work for that. Does the district has a Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
Do they
Yes.
allow comments on their Facebook page?
I think so.
Look,
Look, I follow it.
I mean, I definitely understand the desire or the
They
need.
do.
Yep, to communicate with the public, and that's always, you know, been one of my things, is that, and educate. You know, so if we, I mean, I guess we have to have that discussion at a meeting, because
Yeah.
it'll require a vote and all those kinds of things.
Correct.
But I guess we could do a blanket norm and protocol for social media. What is the protocol for that? You know?
It's Lakeland Joint School District number 272.
And I did find that the US Postal Service does give a discount to nonprofits, which we are considered, we qualify for that.
Yeah.
You buy a special permit for the type of mailing that we would.
Well, the district
have one.
used to have one, so I
We
would
still
assume
do.
we still do.
So I'm sure everybody got the little enrollment postcard, so, I don't know what the costs would be, but.
Well, and I do believe communication is a two-way street, so I don't know if we want to call this the communication board page. Because I don't think what we do should merit any comment or anything like that. And if people have something to say, they should say directly to their trustee person. Even if it's a good job, Bob, for going to the school. People can say that. Just
And
send
every
it
once
to
in a
Bob.
while, you can reiterate that on the page with a post that says,
Yeah.
we have comments turned off for this reason. If you feel strongly about something, please
Reach out to your
reach out to
trustee.
you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's the other thing people are confused about. I've noticed in trying to talk to the community a little bit more is they're confused on who they contact about what.
Right.
You know, like they don't know if they go to the school principal or they go to the superintendent or, you know, they contact whomever. They don't really understand when they contact the board. It's like, well, there's really no set standard of when you contact the board. The board will redirect you if you need that, but that would be nice too. Is I guess that would be a good avenue. You know, make it more.
But you
of an
could put it on there,
education.
you could put all that information on there, like,
if it's this, then call this person. If it's this, then call this
I
person.
need
You
a
know,
chart,
these are-
one of those
Yeah,
charts.
yeah, kind of like a flow chart.
If you have
There
a
you go.
problem, see this person.
Right,
If it doesn't get resolved, see this person.
flow chart would be cool.
The hierarchy
Yeah,
of,
hierarchy of flow chart, yeah.
which is already stated in our policies, but, yeah, if we.
Right, but it's a great way to communicate it
Yeah.
out to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And if there is something going on within the district that we have a policy that supports, we just put it up there for educational purposes, because I'm sorry, but our policies and the way you get to them and how you find out the one you're looking for, unless you know which category it lies under, it's kind of hard, it's a maze. It's, why can't it just be clear?
It's government.
It's a conspiracy.
Can we get an organizational chart in here,
Yes,
by the way?
sure,
I'd like to have one.
yeah.
In,
Printed?
in here when,
Huh?
A printed one?
Yeah, big one, so everybody knows who works for who.
Yeah, we'll be making a few changes to the current one, so, yeah. Before you print it. Let's make the changes.
just pour the cup of water. Knowing good things.
I know it annoys you.
It doesn't
It
annoy me.
does.
It's like, dude. Pour it.
I have another question. Anybody can chime in at any time, this really isn't the Ramona show, but, what about visiting schools? Should we actually write that out? You know,
You can go anytime you want.
yeah, you know, but what is the protocol? We know that, right? So are we contacting, are we giving a courtesy call, are we just showing up unannounced, are we, you know, or do we say anything?
Well, I always think, a courtesy call to the building principal is valid, partly because you might show up and they're busy doing something else,
Right.
you're really interrupting their, their procedure, their day or whatever. So making that contact ahead of time, saying, I'll be up there sometime between 2 and 3 this afternoon, is that okay with your timeline? And the response that I've gotten always is, sure, you're welcome anytime, but it's just a courtesy thing and a scheduling issue with them sometimes. If they're planning to do an observation in a classroom and you show up unannounced, that kind of throws things in a hot tap.
Or why are you here? Why are you visiting? What's going on?
Well, I personally don't have a problem because with my schedule, sometimes it's not always easy to plan it. And I'll be like, oh, sweet, I've got a 45-minute block. And where I live is directly across the street from one of our elementary schools. So I'll just pop in and be like, hey, and I have no problem if they're like, oh, now's not a good time. And it's like, oh, totally understand. Just wanted to pop in and see how everything's going. We'll do it another time. Because one of my principals has been like, just please, anytime, come by. And in fact, with that principal, it was stated to me that they'd never had a board member be interested in their school, ever. And they were shocked I was even in the building. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, this is a good thing. I care about what's going on in your building and your school and what are your needs and how can I help, and let's build this relationship. And it was totally I've never had a board member in my building. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Nope, not kidding. I'm like, oh Lord, that's sad. But I also don't want the presence of, I'm looking over your shoulder.
Right.
Because I'm not looking for anything. I just want to make sure everybody's got everything they need.
Yeah, you're not doing a pop visit just to catch somebody in the act of doing wrong or.
But I did find it rather shocking that when the principal said, no one's ever come to my building, I'm like, oh, that is not good. So, but I'm also pretty respectful. It's like when I get these moments of clarity that, oh, you could go to a school, it's sometimes 2:30, so I don't go. It's like, no, it's closing time.
So I guess, the other thing, in that protocol, I would like to, for visiting schools, I would also like to reference a policy, and I'm not sure which one it is off the top of my head, but we do have a policy that actually says that we will visit every school within the school district once a year. Because I don't know if the whole board was, but I know I was, more than discouraged. I was told not to go to the schools, more than one time, so I would like to, that in writing, that becomes part of the board's protocol, that is not the intention of the board. The intention of the board, I mean, I would think it's the intention of the board to be involved. I mean, that's why
Right.
we're here, right, as the students, is to see the kids, I mean,
And
you know,
how do
they're
we know if
doing
we're
and-
not seeing?
Right, right, you know, or they look like they're getting along all right, you know, I mean, just to be involved, just to show up,
Yep.
right? So if we could, I mean, that's something I would like to see.
Well, I met that protocol this year.
Good
I got
job.
to every school
To deliver
as
messages.
a delivery.
Good job, good job. It didn't say how you had to do it,
Right,
it just
right.
said do it.
Just do it.
Show up. Yep,
I went to 4.
that's good, that's a lot.
I didn't know we had to go to all of them.
I don't know that it's it might be a shall. I don't remember actually in the
The
policy.
year just started though,
Yep,
so we're good.
yep.
You just got yours done early.
Yeah, right.
Overachiever.
It was a pretty cursory visit.
Mhm. They probably said, it's Bob, the old superintendent. That's what they said.
It was fun. Saw some people, got to visit with some people I hadn't seen for a while. Marlis Blake,
Oh, yeah.
Ethel, just retired. She was always a lot of fun.
Probably a lot of people you hired, huh?
Yeah.
I can't find it either, Ramona. I'm checking, and I know I've seen it
Yeah,
as well.
it's there somewhere.
Yeah. Again, it's trying to find something and you're looking for a needle in the 1,000 stack.
We probably ought to have some protocol about when and how to contact for legal advice.
That would be good.
Suggestions?
The question obviously is, are we individually at liberty to make contact with the attorney anytime we feel a need, or should we have consultation with the remainder of the board before doing that, or should we have authorization from the chair to do that, or, I'm just throwing that stuff out there.
Right, right. Well, the way I view it is if you're in a situation that you don't believe we have policy or protocol to protect you or the board or the district, then yes, you should call the attorney, is my thought. When I got on the board, we never called the attorney. We had lots of messes, and things weren't being there was stuff, and I firmly believed we needed legal counsel because of the implications of not having it and having someone who didn't have a legal background give guidance. So we actually had local legal counsel because we were initially told we only had 4 hours with a firm down in Boise for free. But then we found out we had the local legal counsel that has a contract that's never been reworked, revisited, reviewed, or anything. It's never been re-signed, but they still keep giving us advice.
A continuing contract,
Yeah.
No, it's actually expired. Because I kept saying, can I please see the contract? And no one could find it. And finally the attorney is like, oh yeah, it's expired. We need a new one. So, which has not been signed or presented to us, so.
And that's a part of the question too. Under what circumstances should we invite legal counsel to a board meeting so we get universal
Right.
information?
It's my understanding they can only come for land deals and employee. Is it employee?
Yeah, sometimes employee, yeah, the statute's fairly clear.
Right.
Well, the statute for executive session is clear, but I don't know that I think they can come anytime we want them to come.
Yes.
NIC's legal counsels at almost every board meeting.
And some
You know.
districts operate that way.
Yeah.
We had a period of time we did that in the past, but then it wasn't necessary, and so it was dispensed with.
Right, yeah. Well, I guess that's something we need to decide. We need to figure out what, how do we wanna do that? And, I think we all should be able to contact the attorney if we have a question about something or what have you. But at the same time, I think that, the board would need to be privy that happened at some point, probably sooner than later,
Yeah.
But I think if we become aware of something, or we have a question of something, even if it's clarifying, because sometimes things aren't so clear as to
Right.
when or how we do something. Like we were told, for instance, well, if it's administrative, no big deal, you guys can email, talk about it, whatever. It's like, well, what if it's administrative and involves something that's usually an executive session and we still send emails, right? So yeah, I guess we need to figure that out. When and how do we,
Did you see anything in the other protocol about that kind of thing?
Oh, the school visit is 1,400.
Oh, is it? Thank you.
yeah, maybe there should
That's good.
be, sorry, Bob, I didn't,
This one I
speak
can
over you,
read.
but maybe there should be something that we have in that contacting legal counsel so that we're not asking the same question.
Mm-hmm.
individual board members may contact, legal counsel for any matter typically handled in executive session per Idaho code.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the only time,
Right,
but
right,
those would all be legitimate reasons. I think.
right, right,
So
yeah.
you said we could contact legal counsel.
Oh, what did I say?
Yes, what
I don't
did
know,
you
that
say?
was a while ago.
Individual.
For any matter, typically discussed in executive session per Idaho code.
Whatever it is, 74206, whatever those subsections
One,
are.
B, C, D, E, and F,
Yeah.
something.
Yep. Yeah, because like, what if we, I don't know what an example would be, I don't know, something comes to our attention, but we happen to hear it individually, but we, you know, 3 of us become aware of it, or 2 of us, and we think, oh man, you know, we better find out about that.
What are we doing here, yeah?
Right, you know, so how do we do that? Do we go to the chair and say, hey, has anybody else brought this up? Or do we just contact legal counsel? Or, I mean, yeah, that's it.
The other thing is, I think, assuming we, see the agenda ahead of time and know what's going to be coming up, whether it be an executive session or not, if any one of us feels like it's important for us to have legal counsel present, then I think that's the point in time where we would ask the chair to have the legal counsel
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
And it's pretty, there's pretty rare occasions, but on the other hand, it can be very important too.
Mm-hmm.
So if a trustee would like legal counsel, then the trustee would request that from the chair. Is that correct?
To be present at the meeting, yeah.
I have a feeling though that our communication with legal counsel will probably decrease, yeah.
A little bit, probably, yeah.
Yeah, so that will be good. But knowing, I would say anytime there's a question of legality, we should always call. I'll put that down.
Better safe than sorry.
That's right.
Should we have some protocol having to do with communications with staff throughout the district? For example, board members should be free to have informal conversation with staff. However, any discussion or matter having to do with personnel issues needs to be handled differently through normal channels or something, you know.
We have a
Thinking
board
out loud here.
board policy, it specifically says that board communications to staff, all official communications, policies, and directives of staff interest and concern will be communicated to staff members through the superintendent. The superintendent will employ all such media as are appropriate to keep staff fully informed of the board's concerns and actions.
And that's, that all sounds appropriate, but that doesn't preclude you from having an informal conversation.
Right.
How you doing, you know, how's your wife, or how are your kids doing, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, with respect to communication with staff, informal conversations are encouraged. Formal conversations.
Well, there is another piece to this same policy. At the bottom, it says social interaction. Staff and board members share a keen interest in schools and education. When they meet at social affairs and other functions, informal discussion on such matters as educational trends, issues, and innovations and general district problems can be anticipated.
But that's a social function. That's not popping into the district office and being like, "Hey, Chelsea, how's it going?"
Yeah.
You know,
Or you're in a school, you know,
Yeah,
and you're
talking.
going down the hallway and the teacher's there, and so you stop and have a little informal conversation.
Yeah. So what policy was that you were reading, Randy?
1400,
Okay. So.
and it's just social interaction is the last little paragraph in that policy that says that.
Well, and I believe we can probably find some of between what was on the old code of ethics and within some of our procedure or within some of our policies as actual norms and protocols that we should have in one location so that a new incoming board member can be brought up to speed rather quickly instead of finding things out as we go along.
Yeah, or even us, you know, it's like, oh, when
Yeah.
did we decide on that? How
Yeah.
did we, for instance, when, one of the, principals / assistant principal, came and shared with the board, I just was so appreciative of what they shared, that I went and found her and, you know, thanked her for coming before the board and, like, I don't think that, you know, we should be hesitant to do that, but I was willing to take whatever repercussions I might suffer for doing it because I did appreciate it. I think the staff should know that
Yeah.
we appreciate them coming and sharing and letting us
Want to hear from
know,
them.
yeah, because
exactly.
otherwise we're flying blind like this. We don't work in the environment, right? We aren't.
They are our boots on the
Yeah,
ground, so
exactly.
to speak. So we,
Yeah.
we want to know. We
Yeah, you know, so yeah, I think that would be great for encouragement and clarification and, I don't think that's breaking any rule. Talking to the staff or, you know, thanking them or any of those things.
And I have a question. You had brought out at the last meeting, you, Rosanna, that thing about the chair making a motion.
Mhm.
What, was that ISBA's recommendation or was that a statute change?
I don't remember if it
Okay.
was a recommendation or if it was actual statute. I know it came from ISBA.
It did come from
Yes.
ISBA, I know that.
What was that?
Well, ISBA sent out this thing that, you know, if the chair wants to make a motion, then they need to pass off their chair responsive, which is,
Step down, yeah.
which, if it's not in statute, I don't understand why there would be a need to follow that, because as a chairperson, I do not take off my trustee hat. I still hold that hat, so I am part of the 5, that's why I vote. So if I'm voting, I would think that I should be entitled to make the motion, because I have done it a few times just to sort of speed it up when I'm waiting for people to make a motion.
Right, yeah.
But I'm not gonna violate the law either, so if the law says I can't, then
I doubt that it's in statute.
Yeah.
Parliamentary wise, you know, if the chair of a body is elected from within the body, they maintain all the rights as a member of the body, which is what you said.
Right,
If the chair is selected from outside the body, then they do not have those rights.
Correct.
So you would, in that instance, have a right to make a motion.
It's an optional update to an optional policy.
Yeah.
okay. A lot of options.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah, cause I was like, I'm not gonna be like, here Ramona, you be the trustee, so like, you be the chair now so that I can make a motion, that's kinda silly. But, and I had no idea where that came from, like, if there was something within the statute that prompted them to say something quite so silly, but, I don't know. Cause I mean,
Well, if you watch, like, even city council meetings, if you watch a city council meeting, the mayor does not vote
right,
unless it's a tie and then.
Because
they-
he's not a member of
Right.
the council.
Exactly,
Right.
he's
Right.
the mayor, he's elected outside of,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
so I think that may be part of the confusion, so they see city council meetings, they see the mayor acting as the chair of the meeting, so I think that may be where some of that confusion lies.
it might be, I know there are those, within the committee that, or within the community that believe we don't operate correctly because we don't operate the same as a corporate board, but we're not a private entity and we're not a corporate board, we're a totally separate type of entity. And we don't follow Robert's Rules of Order to the letter of the law because
We're not
it's,
required to.
we're not required to, and I don't think it is conducive to the environment that we produce. I mean, it just doesn't, we can't be that formal when we're trying to give people information.
And move on.
Mhm.
And move on, yeah. Yeah, and yet if they
Yes.
watch the, county commissioners, the chair is a commissioner and he does make motions and he does vote, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a matter, there again, there's a good newsletter item, you know?
Yeah.
There's some info
Another
or a
Facebook
Facebook
post.
post
Yep.
or,
That's right.
you know, here's some information as to
Yeah.
why.
And that's maybe something that we just need to kind of keep a running list of too, that
Right.
we're adding to, whether they're posts or, you know, if any of us come up with, yeah,
Right.
one person is managing that site, but just to have, you know, just
Right.
kind of an ongoing list of things that we can, so that it remains relevant
Yes.
and that we have content to, cause if we're not posting things, people aren't gonna keep coming back.
Right,
right, right.
So.
Yeah, it's a job all in itself.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I think, well, it's not something I can take on. I kind of was hoping David would take it on, but,
What are you looking at me
It looked
for?
like you first.
Here's a curious thing, so I pulled up, I also was going through some things, Massachusetts Association of
Yes.
School Committees.
Mhm.
They had, like a checklist, right, a protocols worksheet, how do we do business? And they had things I don't think that pertains to us, like the committee room layout. We don't have a seating arrangement at the committee table kind of thing. But one thing that they
I
did-
like flexibility. Every meeting is different.
Yeah.
Keeps you on your toes.
You never know where you're gonna sit.
Right, except I'm always in the camera. It's like, okay, can I sit?
We're all in
You always
Yeah,
dress
that's-
nice though, so you're good.
One of the things they had on here, was, explaining no votes. And here's some of the things they asked. Do we have a concern in this area? How do we handle it? Do we need a written protocol or do we need a policy? Now, I know that I've asked, specifically Bob sometimes, oh, why? Just because I'm curious, right? But I don't want to put people on the spot either, so do we even care to address that? Like, do we need a protocol to address that? But I just found it curious that they would put that on there, explaining a no vote.
Is that a blanket no vote or an individual no vote? Can you tell?
And no, it just says explaining no vote under their issues. Let's see what their, let me see what it says under.
It sounds to me like it's, if, you know, we have a proposal before us and the board rejects it, you know, votes not to go forward or whatever, then those questions might be raised. If individually you voted against something but it passed, I wouldn't think there'd be any discussion beyond that.
Right.
Well, and I know I did learn the hard way that if you, if you have a recommendation brought to you by administration and you only accept part of it and deny the other part, you really do need to specify why you're denying that other part for the public's interest, instead of just making that in the motion, you know, we'll accept this, but we reject that, and taking the vote and it passes unanimously. When people don't understand why it was pulled out, why it wasn't included. So I learned that lesson the hard way, but maybe that needs to be a protocol, that if you don't accept a recommendation or you modify the recommendation, that it is clearly stated why the recommendation was modified for the benefit of the public. I mean, because to some extent that is a no vote. I would think that if something's brought to us and there was discussion and the motion was, I vote that we do not do this, well, it's pretty clear based on the conversation why that motion was made, and if everybody votes in favor of that, then the conversation supported the no vote.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I don't either. I just thought I'd bring it up because
Yeah.
it was on there and that's, you know, I can see, just like Bob said with the committee, when they bring something to the board, it's like, oh, we'll take it all, oh, we'll take a piece of it, oh, we're not
Right.
gonna take any of it, you know. Yeah, do we need to, or is that just an individual thing, and do we need to cross that bridge when we come to it, or, I mean, do we need a written?
well, and see,
Protocol.
sometimes when like 3 or 4 of us are voting yes and one's voting no, I'm like, well, why are you voting no? You know, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter
right.
because everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I just like their input. But now we've passed the vote, and it really doesn't matter anymore because the vote's already been cast and we can't
I've noticed you
change
do
it.
that, and I think, if the discussion is over and the vote has happened,
Correct.
should you be going back and asking, or are we cutting our conversation short with a motion and somebody isn't getting their?
And see, that's what I
getting-
worry about is
Mhm.
that, you know, I've called
So
for
how
the
do-
motion and
how do
people
we-
still want conversation.
And maybe it's,
Well, it should be.
is it appropriate to ask if there's further discussion before a motion? I don't.
Well, it's
Or-
my
or-
understanding
Or
is
after a motion.
like you
is
have,
made.
Yes.
you bring the topic, you call for the motion, And then I can say, or I'm supposed to say, I don't know if it's
Supposed
which
to.
one's supposed to say, is there more discussion that needs to be
Call for
had?
discussion after the motion is
Yeah,
made.
Right.
Yeah,
That's typical parliamentary procedure.
right, and I know I'm not very good at that, so.
Yeah, a lot of times
we'll work on that.
we tend to discuss things before we ever get to the motion. You know, and that's kind of a toss-up how you wanna do that. Procedurally, you normally have a motion, so the discussion pertains only to the motion. And you don't get off in the weeds
Right,
too much that way. But once again, we're pretty informal when it comes to some of that
we're
stuff.
flexible.
Yes,
We're
right.
flexible, we're loose,
That's right.
you know. Well, because I did get corrected when I was first awarded the hat, I would say, okay, I'll entertain a motion for, and I'll state the motion, you know, or, you know, can I have a motion for this, or I felt like, and it was pointed out to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. But I felt like I was telling everybody what to motion, because this is what we needed to vote on, because it should go this way or that way. That's why I try really hard to just say, okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time, so that you all can bring it to the table however you want to do it.
And that's, yeah, and that's appropriate. You know, when I chair meetings, you know, I'll usually say, what's the pleasure of the board? You can make whatever motion you want, but get a motion on the table, and then we can discuss the motion.
Okay, so would it be that, like, when we go down to the action items, it's like, okay, policies, because that's an actionable item. If I said, what's the pleasure of the board, are you just gonna be like, I motion that we pass them all and we don't even discuss them?
No,
Because sometimes there's 20 of them.
Theoretically, you could do that, but
Okay.
you know, typically you won't.
Okay,
But, you know, because the way our agenda's outlined, the individual policies are labeled, and we take them one at a time. And so,
actually,
this is policy XYZ, what's the pleasure of the board?
well, the last time, what I'm working on with Rosanna is putting them as a consent agenda, so that they're all there,
Okay.
but we do one motion.
Okay.
Because it's much better than, that's why I was like, okay, so this policy we did this, and this policy we did that, and then at the end of the day, what do you wanna do with policies?
See, and that's fine, consent agendas are really good. You know, we have the option to pull an item off the
Right.
consent agenda if someone
further
feels like that
discussion.
needs to be dealt with separately.
Mhm.
And if no one does that, then they're all together, and you make one motion and go.
Right, right.
I found out there's a school board operating protocol sheet. I don't know where it's from, it doesn't say, but I sent it to all you guys.
Okay.
It's kinda cool, because it says, like, roles and responsibilities, board, the superintendent explains kinda, the school board governs, and then it says decides what, requests information, and it goes through the superintendent administrators operates. And kinda goes through a lot of stuff. So, I don't know if we could do something like that and then you could put it out for the community, cause then they understand, like, okay, the board does this, the superintendent does this.
Mhm.
I just typed in board protocols and this came up. Oh, it's Chimican School District, looks like. I didn't see that before.
Wherever that is.
I don't know where that is either.
Yeah, we
But
have
it
a
has-
document like this at
We
one
do?
time, or we did.
Oh, we did? But it just says board meetings, executive sessions, it kinda explains everything. And we could do our own and put our own language in there. But it has the staff communications, board communication, the staff policies, visits to schools, social interaction, board conduct, board's authority, board superintendent relationships, board professional development. Just kind of goes through everything.
That's a lot of our, part of our policies and stuff.
Yeah.
Actually quite.
What is it,
Similar
3
to-
Mm-hmm.
pages long?
Yeah. Kind of cool though.
It's not bad.
No, it's not. So I like that part right there. So that-
Yeah.
It's
in Chimacum, Washington.
That's fine.
No.
Yeah, I think ISBA had something, similar to this, at some point, or maybe we started working on one and just never got back to it, is what it was. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I have no problem putting something like that out.
Cause all the protocols on the website are all just numbered, aren't they?
Well, those are the policies, yep.
So the policies are numbered, but there's just dates on the protocol.
Well, we don't have any, we have,
Or the, what do they call it?
procedures, which are not the protocol. So the procedure is, you know,
How
the
it's
form
done.
or how you implement this policy, but the protocol is, like the example I gave earlier is, takes two people to get something on the agenda unless it's the superintendent and the chair. Well, how do those two people do that? You know, what do you mean? Are we calling? Are we emailing? Are we, you know, how does that happen? That's really what we're trying to define, are those protocols, so we
Right.
know how those things work. And we don't have any of those
Nothing.
delineated anywhere. No, but yeah, I'm fine with like a cheat sheet kind of thing with this that makes it real, you
Easy.
know, clear and concise, and then you could always put the policy number in there if they wanted to go read the whole thing, but in a
Right.
synopsis, here's what it actually means.
One stop
That
shop.
would, yeah, that would be great if our website actually did that.
They
You
could
know.
search something, like.
Well, yeah, that, and if it actually had like a little synopsis of, those things, but
You can get that back.
that's for another
Yeah.
day.
Oh, okay.
Send it to your email.
Send it to,
I did.
oh, okay.
I sent it to everybody, I think. Did you get it?
Yep, yep.
I'll get it later. Mine's down.
You need power? Need power?
That's all right.
For sure.
I can see yours.
Yeah, we'll share. No cheating, Bob.
And I think.
We do have the ISBA one in there, Ramona.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, is it, yeah, I knew it looked something like that. It's been a while since I looked at it.
So I just moved that over into the norms and protocol
Okay.
file drive thing
Okay.
that everybody has access to, just so everybody knows. I think.
Yes, you did.
Okay, good.
We talked about communication, email, and all those types of things. I think the other thing that would be nice is, did we cover that? The chair having the freedom to write, say, thank you letter to somebody on the board's behalf. Hey, thank you for, I don't know, recognition, participate, you know, whatever some person or entity did or what have you. Yeah, I'm just curious. Oh, is this communication? You know, if we wanna write that down too, how this thing works.
Yeah, I see that as kind of the official function of the chair.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Even though she doesn't have a lot of power, she may speak on on behalf of the board under certain circumstances.
Yeah. Well, see, those certain circumstances aren't delineated,
I
so, you know.
Yeah, but we're flexible.
Okay, yeah. We're loose, got it.
We're Gumby.
And we have about 15 minutes and then we'll be done.
There may be
I like that 2-hour rule.
situations of
We just made it 3.5 hours.
officials, quasi-official business. For example, if a city council invites a representative from the board to come and speak about a particular issue, that would fall on as chairman,
Okay,
you know, that kind of thing.
okay.
As chair, you volunteer as tribute.
Well, I have a question on that then, cause like, the Rathrum Chamber of Commerce, I'm assuming you're still going, correct?
Yes,
Do you go on behalf of the board now?
no,
Why not?
because Lisa will also be there and she will represent the district. I mean, yes, I speak on behalf of the board, I guess, if I get questioned, but I don't provide a report or that sort of thing.
Right,
Superintendent will do that.
okay. Cause yeah, we started going because we weren't getting reports and we didn't know what was going on.
I don't know.
So-
about
nobody
North,
else
I
had
don't
one.
know
Yeah,
about
we're
here.
solid.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe that is something we should have a conversation with Lisa about, with respect to the various, I guess, organizations and activities she may be participating, I don't know.
Yeah, I know that, Becky took her up to Bayview, I think, and introduced to the group up there, and to, the mayor at Athol, and the chamber at Spirit Lake. And
Okay,
the superintendent's been a member of the board of the chamber here for the last four years, I think, something like that.
yeah, and I don't fully understand why, but,
Well, members of the board of the chamber here are either volunteers when board positions open and they solicit for anyone who's interested. And if nobody steps forward, then the board sometimes reaches out and asks people to join the board.
yeah,
And I can't remember for sure, but I think that may have been what happened when Becky came on.
okay. Well, I guess from a layperson's perspective, I don't understand why there is so much political connection in respect to the different chambers and the city councils, and I don't understand that.
I think it's a part of the communication strategy overall to make sure that communications from the district are back and forth with influential groups within the community. You know,
Okay.
when it comes time to do by-elections or those kinds of things, it's very important to have the support of those groups and those people who are represented there.
Okay,
And they're typically business people, and so it's very valuable to have business community support for the school district, and by and large, it's been very good over the years. But making sure that those folks have a good understanding of what's happening within the district, what our issues are, what our concerns are, what our growth problems are, so on and so forth. A lot of the discussion surrounds that sort of thing.
okay. Well, cause I know I've been to 2 meetings, and the one meeting was just a presentation, And then the second meeting was the state of the community.
You're talking about the
resource-
luncheons,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
luncheons, yeah.
but the board meetings, which is, the chamber here has a 9-member board,
Okay,
operates in Illinois.
so there's
Not
more
too differently
outside of
than
the
what we do.
luncheons?
Pardon?
There's more outside of the luncheons?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
they meet here at the district office,
Yeah.
I believe, yeah.
they have been.
oh, okay,
Yeah, they
okay.
have. In fact, our regular monthly meeting was supposed to have been tonight, but for lack of a quorum, it was canceled.
Mhm.
Partly because some of us are attending other meetings. But-
Sorry, Bob.
We appreciate you being here, Bob.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your dedication.
Priority, take priority. But anyway, yeah, there's a 9-member board the chamber has, and for the most part, they're all business people with the exception of a representative from the school district. I was on the board originally as
Right.
a business person and a community member. Just happens now that I also have board involvement here, but.
Right,
So, yeah, and that board meets monthly,
okay,
has a fair amount of discussion about, what's going on in the community. We always get a report from Leon Deuce, city administrator, about, what issues the city's facing, what new developments are taking place within the community, subdivisions and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of, and certain times of the year, there's discussion about legislative issues and, what impact that may have on the business community and or the school community. So it's a pretty
Mhm.
close working relationship in that type of communication.
Okay.
It's valuable.
that's good.
Yeah.
Well, this is the most I've ever learned about the chamber, because,
The importance of it, I think,
Yeah,
has always been our
that's true, the
question, is
importance,
like,
yeah.
where's the benefit and what's the importance?
yeah,
So that would probably be something good that we delineate, whether it ends up in this blurb format, because I don't think that the, community is clear on that, well, I know they're not. And the other thing is, yeah, just the relationship that the school district has with other organizations. I think the other thing that would be nice is that, we also, explain, the educational foundation and its relationship with the school district. Which Bob could probably tell us all about that.
It was there from day one.
Yeah, because that, and then there was another one, called, Citizens, something, I wanna say CEQ or CQE, Citizens for Quality Education. Yeah, so, if we just have a better, written understanding of how all of this interacts with the school district. From a historic perspective and a perspective going forward, and I think it's just good to have that all written down, and it might have been all written down at one time, might already exist, we just need to find it and scan it into something,
Well, I think it's important to develop those kind of relationships with people
Mhm.
in those various organizations.
Right.
Who typically want to be very supportive of the district and the educational system and education in general.
Right,
But it's helpful to them to receive information
Right.
from us, so to speak, and for us to hear, what their issues are with respect to supporting
Mhm.
education.
right. Yeah, cause I know I don't know their perspective at all in the reciprocal of the relationship, because it's not information that's ever been provided to the board. And I think it is critical that we have that information, because if we're governing this, we wanna make sure that we're, taking into consideration all aspects.
Right.
And you can't do that without the information.
Well, and people don't understand the benefit you know,
Right.
certain things, and that's the thing, is explaining the benefit of why this happens, you know, like the educational foundation and how it benefits the students and it benefits teachers and, you know, why they need the extra funding, you know, why
Mhm.
they need these types of things and how it works. And I just think it's good if we try to explain as much as we can,
Yeah.
going forward.
Well, you know, and with respect to the business community, it's really vitally important that we have good communication with them. From a tax standpoint, you know, they don't have a break on their taxes like a homeowner does, for
Right.
example. And so they pay the full burden of whatever, you know, they're assessed at. And, you know, so it's important that they have a good understanding why it's
Mm-hmm.
critical that we be able to move forward, you know, with whatever kind of levy we might come up with, or that sort of thing. And by and large, they are generally very supportive,
Mm-hmm.
but it's important that they have good information.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it needs to be a good, reciprocal communication.
Two-way street.
Yes, two-way street. Well, thanks, Bob.
That's why the district is as involved as it is, for example, with the Chamber of Commerce, both from a financial standpoint and representative standpoint, liaison back and forth and that kind of thing.
Good to know. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, well, we're down to about 5 minutes. Do we feel that we're at a stopping point? I realize this isn't like a complete thing. I think the document, if people have input, or suggestions or items, they can be added to the document, and then we can try and morph it into a more formalized, articulated flow.
Yeah, and I think that's a great start.
Okay,
Good.
thank y'all for coming to the table.
Good job.
Thank you.
Alright, so go ahead and in the workshop, it's 7:26.